Good day, students. Welcome back to GES107 class. My name is Dr. Uidlc, and our next topic is human sexuality and adolescent sexual behavior. When we talk about adolescence, what do we mean? Adolescence is a period where a person is no longer a child and is not yet an adult. So it is an interface between childhood and adulthood. WHO, that's the World Health Organization, defined an adolescent as someone aged 10 to 19 years. And they also classified adolescence into two. There is early adolescence and late adolescence. Early adolescence is between ages 10 and 14, while late adolescence is between ages 15 to 19. There are other common terms that are used to describe the young population. For example, there's what we call youth, there's also young people, but the youth, according to WHO, is someone aged 15 to 24 years, while a young person is an individual aged 10 to 24 years. You can see this, that there is adolescent in the definition of young person, because adolescence is between 10 to 19, while young person is 10 to 24. So from 20 to 24, then you can say the person is now an adult. You should note that there are different definitions of adolescence. I've given you the definition of WHO, which is the most acceptable. But other society, other people, there are ways in which they define adolescence. For example, in some communities, they don't see an individual as an adult if the person is not yet married. We can see this even in the Yoruba culture. We will notice that once a lady is married, people start respecting that lady. Even if the lady is underage, even if is a child, there is a kind of respect that is accorded to the person immediately, and they start respecting. The person becomes an adult immediately. So there are different social definitions of adolescence. For example, even outside Nigeria, in South Africa, once a male is circumcised, the male becomes an adult immediately. Is considered an adolescent. One universally acceptable definition of adolescence is that the individual is no longer a child, but not yet an adult. So they don't regard, as long as in the Zulu, among the Zulu of South Africa, as long as you have not been circumcised, you are still an adolescent to them. In Yoruba culture too, if you are not yet married, you are not an adult. You should know that, but the universally accepted definition is that the individual is no longer a child, but not yet an adult. What are the features of adolescence? First, it is a time of self-definition. When I say self-definition, I mean when somebody becomes self-conscious. Now, you start recognizing yourself, you start seeing yourself. Oh, this is the time you want to have friends. This is the time you are defining yourself. This is the time you want to be accepted. And this is the time that an individual develops more intense relationship with their peers. That is the time you now start hearing, oh, he's my bestie, he's my friend, my G. That's the major life. That's the time when they start making major life decisions. And then this particular period is a time where there is growth spurts, which means that there is changes in the body. You start noticing that the person, for the boys, their voice is becoming harder. The girls, you notice that they are now being conscious. This is the time that they want to go out and they have to put powder. They are conscious of the environment. They want to use lipstick, and then their body starts changing. You start seeing here in different places. For the girls, they start menstruating, and then they start developing their breast. We should know that adolescence is significant in terms of knowing that they are a very large proportion of our population. Adolescents and young people, they are very large population. And then because of this, we will notice that they normally engage in risky sexual practices. Risky sexual practices means unprotected sex with multiple partners. You will now notice that they have the potential to to be involved in risky things because they are in a stage where they want to experiment. And then it is significant for us to learn about adolescents because you know that they are potential future of any community. When the youth in the community, they are not well trained or they are not useful, they are our investment, it will affect the community in future. And then we should know also adolescents are very enthusiastic, they have energy and very optimistic, which is when they are properly channeled, it will be positive outcome for any society, especially for our society in Nigeria. Why are we learning adolescence? We are learning it because we already said that these are young people and they are in large amount, they are large proportion, and they engage in risky sexual practices. There's an example of a study that was conducted in UI among UI students. This happened in 2003. So they tried to offer opportunity for voluntary counseling testing in UI for HIV. And there was 51 people consented to this. And out of the 51, you won't believe that 8 of them tested positive to HIV.
Is that true?
8. That is a lot. And all those with positive results, they have all had sexual experience with, they have been involved in sexual activities. And like I said, why is HIV eating young people so hard? I already said that. Because they engage in risky sexual practices, because they have multiple partners. Young persons, they still believe that HIV and AIDS does not exist. Some of them feel that it cannot happen to them. Some of them don't even have the right information. They don't even know. So that is why it is really eating hard on young people. According to WHO, there's this definition of sexuality. It means it's an encompassing of sex, age, gender, identities, roles, sexual orientation, pleasure, intimacy, and reproduction. And sexuality education has to do with the process of learning about how individual can be comfortable about all the aspects of human being. Sexuality education is when we provide information, skills, and services that enables people to adopt a safe sexual behavior. What are safe sexual behaviors? Abstinence, non-penetrative sex, such as hugging, holding hands, and correct and consistent use of condoms. What are examples of adolescent risky behavior? Sexual engagement, early sexual engagement. When you start engaging in sex very early in life, it is risky behavior. It is risky adolescent behavior. And then, like I said before, that either you are not using condom or you are using your condom inconsistently. It is risky. Inconsistent means that I used condom today, I'm not using tomorrow. It is wrong. And then use of psychoactive substances. Because you want to have sex, you need to be high. Must you take alcohol? It is wrong. When we say early sexual engagement, over 25% of adolescents in Nigeria, according to literature, have had their first sexual intercourse by age 15 years. And according to NDHS of 1999, by 18 years, over 60% of adolescents have had sexual intercourse. In fact, one study found that by age 13 years, over a quarter of a sample of secondary school students in Jos have had sexual intercourse, which is very alarming. What are the consequences of engaging in early sex? You will commence childbearing early in age. So girls who are not sufficiently emotionally stable, they are starting to bear children, which is very risky. And then they are exposed to infection, so they are more exposed to infection, and they are vulnerable to STI, sexually transmitted diseases. Consequences of also having sex with casual partners. Also, it will increase the chances of STI, sexually transmitted infections, including HIV and AIDS. Sex with many partners too, same thing. And then when you don't use condoms too, risk of undesirable consequences, apart from impregnating people, apart from um, having a child early in life, you're also exposed to sexually transmitted diseases. And then use of psychoactive substances. What does this mean? The psychoactive substances actually affect your mind, your mood, your behavior. So it can actually alter your behavior and make you misbehave and make you do things that you will not ordinarily do. What are examples of mood altering drugs? Like cigarettes. I said it already. Alcohol, cannabis, Indian hemp, heroin, cocaine. These are examples. All this will contribute to what? First, if you are drinking, you are over drinking, you may be involved in accident, suicide, violence, you may rape, and this may cause unwanted pregnancies, may cause sexually transmitted diseases. I already said that alcohol too, it impairs your judgment and will increase your chances of risky behavior. Talk about unwanted pregnancies, infection with HIV, unsafe abortion, dropping out of school, and even death. People can die as a result of abortion or even childbirth early in life. So what are the interventions that we should do? We need to incorporate sexuality education into existing curriculum in our primary schools, secondary schools, and tertiary schools. And this is why we have GES107 here in UI. It is for sexual education. So that you are not just coming to school and just doing anyhow as regards your reproductive health. You are conscious of what you are doing, you are conscious of HIV and AIDS. And so we should also note that the content of each of these curriculum should be age specific. What you are supposed to teach a primary school student about sexuality education is going to be different from what you are going to teach secondary or tertiary students. And then we should make sure that more effort should be made by the government and non-governmental organizations about sexual education. Now that you've heard about sexuality education, please be wise. If you are to have sex at all, the first thing is to abstain from sex. But if you need to have sex, please use condoms, use protection, use it consistently, and use it correctly. Thank you for listening.